We have been asked to write 84 as a product of its prime factors for 2 marks, okay? So, let's do that. We're going to start with 84 and we're going to do a factor tree. First, we'll take out a factor of 2. 84 divided by 2 is going to be 42. Then, we'll do the same thing. Take out a factor of 2. 42 divided by 2 is 21. And finally, we'll say 21 is going to be 3 times 7, okay? This means that as a product of its prime factors, we're going to do 2 times 2 times 3 times 7. So this question, or this part, sorry, is worth 2 marks. You get 1 mark for a complete method to find prime factors, as we have done here, and the second mark for writing your answer in the correct format. Part B has asked us to find the LCM, lowest common multiple, of 60 and 84 for 2 marks, okay? So, to find the lowest common multiple, we're first going to express them in terms of their prime factors, okay? So we know that 84 equals 2 times 2 times 3 times 7 from the previous part, and 60, okay, let's just do 60 on the side here, 60, 2, 30, 30 can be split into 2 and 15, and then 15 is 3 and 5. So we have 60 equals 2 times 2 times 3 times 5, okay? So now let's start grouping. These two are a group, these two are a group, these two are a group, and these two are individual. So the LCM of 60 and 84 equals 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 times 7, okay? 2 times 2 is 4, times 3 is 12, times 5 times 7, 12 times 5 is 60, 60 times 7, and 60 times 7 is 420. So we can write that in our answer spot here, like that. This part is worth 2 marks. The first mark comes for at least 3 multiples of both 60 and 84, as we have done here. And the second mark comes for getting 420 as the correct final answer. Note, you could have written it as 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 times 7, okay? If you express it like that, you do get 1 mark for it. However, you should always, because it said the lowest common multiple, you should always give the final number, okay? So you would expand it out and solve it. We are given 3 sets of numbers, okay? The set of all numbers, 1, 2, 10. Set A is even numbers and set B is factors of 10. We have been asked to complete the Venn diagram for this information for 3 marks, okay? So, what I'm going to do is going through the numbers one by one and I'm going to assign them, okay? So A is numbers, so sort of this region here, all the way here, is just even numbers. This overlap is even numbers and factors of 10, and this region B, where there's no overlap, is just factors of 10. Any other numbers will go outside of the Venn diagram inside this box, okay? So, let's begin. 1, well, 1 is not even, but it is a factor of 10. So 1 will go in here. 2 is even and a factor of 10. 3 is odd and is not a factor of 10, so it will go outside. 4 is even, but it's not a factor of 10. 5 is odd, but is a factor of 10. 6 is even, but not a factor of 10. 7 is neither. 8 is even, but not a factor of 10, so 8 goes here. 9 is neither, and 10 is both even and a factor of 10, okay? So this question is worth 3 marks. You get 3 marks for a fully correct Venn diagram, as we have here. I'm just going to award those 3 marks. You get 2 marks for correct numbers in at least 2 regions, okay, so either this, 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 or this, so you need to pick 2 of those, and if those are fully correct, then you get 2 marks, and if you've just got 1 of those regions correct, then it's just 1 mark. Part B has asked us, is telling us, a number is chosen at random from the universal set of all numbers, okay? Part B explicitly is asking us to find the probability that this number is in the set A and B for 2 marks, okay? So, we have 10 numbers altogether, so it's going to be over 10. And in the set A and B, we have 2 numbers, okay? So it's 2 over 10. This part is worth 2 marks. The first mark comes from either getting 2 as being correct or 10 as being correct. Okay, so if you've got 2 over some other number, you get 1 mark. If you've got 10 over some other number, you get 1 mark. Okay. Your second mark comes from a fully correct answer of 2 over 10. Okay, so as we have done here, we get 2 marks like this. We are told Carlo puts tens into small boxes and into large boxes. He puts 6 tens into small boxes, and 20 tens into large boxes. Carlo puts 3,000 tens into the boxes so that the number of tens in the small box to the number of tens in the large box is 2 to 3. Carlo then says that less than 30% of the boxes filled with the tens are large boxes. Is he correct? And we must show our working. Okay, and this question is worth 5 marks. First, we are going to work out this ratio, okay, this one here. So we're going to say, wrong pen, small to large, like this, okay? We know that this has to be 2 to 3. So we're going to say 1 share equals 3,000 tens over 2 plus 3, which is 5, so 2 plus 3. So in your calculator, do 3,000 over 5, and this is going to be 600. Okay, now we multiply each of these numbers by 600 to get 1,200 on this side to 1,800 on that side. Okay, so what we did was we said that in the ratio 2 to 3, so there's 5 shares altogether. This 5 shares corresponds to this 300 tens. So 1 share is 3,000 over 5 to get 600. Okay, now we know how many tens were packaged into boxes, okay, to each box, sorry. We know 1,200 tens were packaged into small and 1,800 were packaged into large, okay. So the next step is to work out how many of each box there are, okay. So we know that 1,200 tens go into small boxes and 6 small tens, there are 6 tens in each small box, okay. So that means the number of small boxes will be 1,200 over 6, which equals 200, and the number of large boxes will equal 1,800 over 20, which is 90. Okay. Now, what we need to do is we need to work out what 90 is as a proportion of the total number of boxes used. Okay, so we will say finding 90 as a proportion. Actually, a better way to phrase it will be finding, because we're dealing with large boxes, finding number of large boxes as a proportion of number of total boxes. And this is going to be 90, which is the number of large boxes, over 200 plus 90. And if we plug this into our calculator, so 90 over 290, we get an answer of 31%. Okay, actually more specifically, it is 0.3103, etc. And this becomes 31% to 2 significant figures, like that, okay, because that's all we need to make our point here. We are told, Carlo says less than 30% of the box filled with tens are large boxes, okay, but it's actually 31%. So what we can say here is a concluding statement. We can say 31% is greater than 30%. Therefore, Carlo is wrong, like this. So this this question is worth 5 marks. The first mark comes from finding what 1 share is. Finding what 1 share is. The second mark comes from finding how many tins go into small and large boxes. Third mark comes from finding how many of each box there are. The fourth mark comes from working out the fraction, as we have done here. And the fifth mark comes from a concluding statement stating he is wrong. Okay. We have been asked to complete the table of values for y equals 5 minus x cubed for 2 marks. Okay, so this one is going to be 5 minus minus 2 all cubed. Minus 2 times minus 2 times minus 2 is minus 8. 5 minus minus 8 is 5 plus 8, so that's 13. Okay, this one is going to be 5 minus 0 cubed, so this is just going to be 5. This one is going to be 5 minus 1 cubed, which is going to be 4. And this one is going to be 5 minus 2 cubed. 2 cubed is 8. 5 minus 8 is minus 3. So this part is worth 2 marks, and you get 2 marks for a fully correct table. Otherwise, you get 1 mark for 2 or 3 correct values. Part B has told us on the grid below, draw the graph of y equals 5 minus x cubed for values of x from minus 2 to 2. Okay, and this is worth 2 marks. Okay, so minus 2, our value of y was 13. Okay, so minus 2, 13 is in between 12 and 14, right in the middle, so it would be there. Okay, I'm going to put an X because it's cleaner than making a really thick black dot which could blur the line. Then at minus 1, at x equals minus 1, sorry, we had that y equals 6. Okay, so minus 1, 6 here. At x equals 0, y equals 5, so we can pop that there. At x equals 1, y equals 4. So we can put that there. And finally, at x equals 2, y equals minus 3. And minus 3 would be in between minus 2 and minus 4, so there. Now all we need to do is we need to join this up, okay, with a nice smooth curve. So something... Oops, I missed that one, that point there. Something like that. Okay, so this part is worth 2 marks. Okay, the first mark comes from plotting at least 4 of the points from the table correctly, and you get both marks for a fully correct curve drawn. Okay, so we get 2 marks because we have done this correctly. We have been asked to work out the value of x, and we need to give our answer correct to 1 decimal place for 2 marks. Okay, so we will need to use trigonometry here. Now let's label our sides. This is the hypotenuse, and this is our opposite because it's opposite to our angle. Okay, from our rules of SOHCAHTOA, okay, the one which has O and H is SOH, so this is the rule we will use. Okay, and this rule says sine of our angle theta is our opposite over our hypotenuse, and because we're trying to find our opposite here, we will rearrange this and we say that our opposite is our hypotenuse times the sine of our angle. So this means our hypotenuse is 178 millimeters times sine of 34 degrees. Okay, putting this into your calculator, 178 times the sine of 34 will get you an answer of 99.5, 36, etc. Okay, millimeters. Now we have been asked to give it to 1 decimal place, so we need to round this. Okay, and it rounds down to 99.5 millimeters, like that. So this part is worth 2 marks. The first mark comes from knowing you need to use the sine rule, okay, as we have done here. Second mark comes from getting a correct final answer. We have been asked to find 2a minus 3b as a column vector for 2 marks. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to substitute our column vectors in. Okay, so we're going to say this is 2, 3, 4, minus 3, 5 minus 2. Now remember with column vectors, okay, if we have AB, sorry, wrong color. If we have AB plus CD like this is A plus C, B plus D, okay? So we add the rows, okay, to each other. So A and C, B and D. Okay, and if we have the scalars we have here, so if we have K times XY, this is KX, KY. Okay, these are the 2 rules we'll need to do this. So 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8, like this, minus, okay, 3 times 5 is 15, 3 times minus 2 is minus 6, like that, okay. 6 minus 15 is minus 9. 8 minus minus 6 is 8 plus 6, which is 14, like that. So we can fill it in here, minus 9 and 14. There we go. So this question is worth 2 marks. The first mark comes from doing the correct steps and getting -9 and something else, or something else and 14. Okay, so if you've got one of the numbers correct, you get 1 mark, and you get both marks if you got both of the answers correct, like I have here. We are told the diagram shows a right angled triangle and a quarter circle. The right angled triangle ABC has angle ABC, which equals 90 degrees, okay, obviously, and the quarter circle has center C with radius CB. Work out the area of the quarter circle, and we need to give our answer correct with 3 significant figures showing all of our working, okay, and this question is worth 4 marks. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find length CB. So we're going to say CB equals the square root of 9 squared minus 6 squared. And this comes from the Pythagoras theorem, okay? So if we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where c is the hypotenuse, okay? And we want to find, say, b squared, this will be b squared equals c squared minus a squared, and so b equals the square root of c squared minus a squared, like that, which is what we've done here. So this will equal the square root of 9 squared, which is 81, minus 6 squared. 6 squared is 36. This equals the square root of 45, and this in third form simplifies to 3 root 5. Okay? So this here is 3 root 5. Now, the area of our circle, okay, so area of circle is going to be pi r squared. So that means the area of a quarter of a circle is going to be, so I'm just going to write that here, we'll say quarter of circle will equal 1/4 times pi times r squared. So let's do this. We're going to say this is 1/4 times pi times our radius, which is CB here, times 3 root 5 squared. Now you can plug all of this into your calculator. So 1/4 times pi times 3 root 5 squared, okay, gets you 35.3429, etc. So 35.342 and so on, like that. Right then, okay. And the thing is, we were asked for 3 significant figures, so we need to round this to 3 significant figures, which is 35.3, like this. And we can write this in our answer space, which is all the way down here, as being 35.3 meters squared, okay? Shows how little space it took to do such a complicated looking question, okay? So this question is worth 4 marks, okay? The first mark comes from using your Pythagoras theorem, okay? So we can state it here. Second mark comes from getting our radius, okay? So 3 root 5, okay? Bear in mind, CB is our radius. So if you have found CB, whether you've stated explicitly it's a radius or not, it doesn't really matter, okay? Third mark comes from stating that you're going to be using this formula here, which is a quarter times the area of a circle, and the fourth and final mark is for a correct answer in the range of 35.2 to 35.4. Okay, we got 35.3, which is right in the middle, so that's, oh, sorry, this is third, and this is our 4th mark here, okay? We are told Tariq buys a laptop. He gets a discount of 5% on top of the normal price, and he pays £551 for the laptop. We need to work out the normal price of the laptop for 2 marks, okay? So, it's very simple. All we do is we say the original price times 0.95, because he got 5% off, which means he paid 95% of the full price, equals £551. So the original price is going to be 551 over 0.95, and all we did was divided this side by 0.95 because we divided this side by 0.95. Okay, so get your calculator and we can check it. We can say that 551 divided by 0.95 gives us 580. So this means that the original price, sorry, wrong colour, is £580, like that. This question is worth 2 marks. First mark comes from a suitable method to find the increase. So as we have here, second mark comes from the correct final answer. We are then told Joanne invests £6,000 in a savings account. The savings account pays a compound interest rate of 2.4% for the first year, 1.7% for each extra year. Work out the value of Joanne's investment at the end of the 3 years, and this part is worth 3 marks. Okay, so compound interest, okay, so the new value is going to be the initial times interest to the power of n, which is the number of years it was paid. Okay, so after the first year, Joanne will have 6,000 times 1.024 to the power of 1, okay, because it's only for 1 year. This 1.024, 2.4% is the same as 0.024 because we divide by 100, so 1, 2. And then because we're taking how much we had initially and we're compounding on top of that, we will add 1. So add 1 to get 1.024. There we go. We have a calculator. Let's check our, let's work this out. 6,000 times 1.024. And this gets us 6,144 after the first year. Okay, now after the third year, okay, the reason we're skipping second is because it's included in the extra year. Okay, we take how much we're going to start with, 6,144 times, this is 1.017 again, because 1.7% is 0.017, and which becomes 1.017 when you take into account your compounding, so you're adding on top. And the number of years, so 3 minus 1 for the first year is 2 years. Okay, so in our calculator, we'll multiply the 6,144 by 1.017 to the power of 2 to get £6,354 and 67 pence. Okay, so we can write that in our answer space down here. So 6354.67. This part was worth 2 marks. Okay, 3 marks. The first mark comes from getting how much was paid in the first year. Second mark comes from a complete method to find what would how you would calculate the second and third year. And then the final mark comes from the correct, final answer, like that. We are told Aisha recorded the height in centimeters of some girls, okay, and she used her results to work out the information in this table, all right? Aisha drew this box plot for the information in the table, but the box plot is not fully correct. Write down 2 things that Aisha should change to make her box plot fully correct, and this question is worth 2 marks, okay? So the first point I'm going to pick up on, okay, is that she needs to plot the median at 162, not 161. Okay, and the reason is because it's 162 here. These are 1 division, so it's at 161 there. Okay, so plot median at 162, not 161. Second thing is to plot the upper quartile at 171, not 172. Okay, so here the upper quartile, is so. Because we're not given the upper quartile, we do need to work it out. So we have 154 plus 17, okay? If you put this into your calculator, you will get, it is 171, okay? So this means the upper quartile equals 171. However, she has plotted it at 172, okay? So we're going to say upper quartile should be plotted at 171, not 172. Okay. So this question is worth 2 marks, and you get 1 mark for each suitable. We have been asked to simplify 1 over m squared to the power of 0 for 1 mark. Okay. Anything to the power of 0 equals 1. So this means our final answer is going to be 1. Okay, now you get 1 mark for this part and 1 mark for the correct final answer. Part B has asked us to simplify 8 times x minus 4 all over x minus 4 squared for 1 mark. Okay, we can cancel through by 1 lot of x minus 4, okay, to leave x minus 4 on our denominator. And this means our final answer will be 8 over x minus 4, like this. This part is worth 1 mark, and you get 1 mark for the correct final answer. We have been asked to simplify 3n to the 4 w squared all cubed, okay, for 2 marks, okay? We're going to use the rule that if we have a, b, c all to the power of x, this is a to the x times b to the x times c to the x, okay? And then there's another rule we'll need, which says if you have a to the x all to the power of y, this equals a to the xy, like that, okay? So 3n to the 4 w squared all cubed. This becomes 3 cubed times n to the 4 cubed times w squared cubed. 3 cubed is 27. Now, for this, we're going to apply this rule, which is going to be 4 times 3, which is 12, so n to the 12, times w, 2 times 3 is 6, so it's going to be w to the power of 6. Okay, so combining this, we get 27, n to the 12, and w to the 6. And this part is worth 2 marks. The first mark comes from any 2 of these 3 terms being correct. And the second mark comes from a fully correct final answer. We're told Jack is in a restaurant. There are 5 starters, 8 main courses, and some desserts on the menu. Jack is going to choose 1 starter, 1 main course, and 1 dessert. He says there are 240 ways that he can choose his starter, main course, and his dessert. Could Jack be correct? And we must show how we got our answer. Okay? So, what we need to do here is we need to remember our rule of combinations. Okay? And that rule states that if we have n choices for option 1, m choices for option 2, and p choices for option 3, the total number of choices is the product of them. Okay? So, what we're going to say is to get 240 choices, we need to look at 5 times 8 times x being 240, and this comes from our combination. So there's 5 starters, 8 mains, and some amount of desserts. Okay, 5 times 8 is 40, so we have 40x equals 240, and x equals 6. So for this to be true, he needs to have the option of 6 desserts. Now we need to use a bit of logic here. Is 6 desserts a reasonable number for a restaurant to have? Okay, and for that it is yes. Okay, that is a suitable number. Okay, so we can say yes, as long as there are 6 desserts. Okay, sorry. And then in brackets, which is reasonable. Okay, because you can have ice cream, you can have 3 or 4 different types of cake, you can have waffles, all sorts. So yes, it is reasonable for a restaurant to have 6 or even more desserts. Okay, but as long as there are 6 desserts, then you can reach 240 choices. So he is correct in terms of that, and it is feasible. This question is worth 2 marks. The first mark comes from using the combinations rule to get this equation, and the second mark comes from stating yes along with 6 desserts. We are told the graph gives information about the volume v litres of petrol in the tank of Jim's car after it has travelled a distance of d kilometres. We have been asked for part A to find the gradient of the graph for 2 marks. Okay, so our gradient equals our change in y over change in x. Let's look at our graph. Our change in y, so we start at at 27 litres, and we end at 0 litres because we're picking this point and this point. And then our distance starts at 0 kilometres and ends at 300 kilometres. Okay, so the change in y is minus 27, and the change in x is 300. So in our calculator, we will do minus 27 over 300, which gets us minus 0.09. So minus 0.09. Right. Now, so this part is worth 2 marks. The first mark comes from a suitable method to find the gradient, as we have done here. The second mark comes from a correct answer. Part B has asked us to interpret what the gradient of the graph represents for 1 mark, okay? So, what is the gradient telling us? Well, in this case, it is telling us the volume of petrol used per kilometer travelled by the car. There we go. Because we're taking the change in volume and we're dividing it by the distance travelled. So it's the volume used per kilometre travelled. This part is worth 1 mark and you get 1 mark for a correct answer. Given a triangle ABC and we have been asked to work out the length of AB given our answer correct to 1 decimal place. Okay, so length of AB correct to 1 decimal place. And this question is worth 3 marks. So, what we're going to do here is we first need to work out this angle here. Okay, so I'm going to say theta. We're going to say theta equals, actually first, let's use a rule of a triangle, which is the sum of all angles totals to 180 degrees. 34 degrees plus 26 degrees plus theta equals 180 degrees. Theta equals 180 degrees minus 34 degrees minus 26 degrees. There we go. 180 minus 34 minus 26, and this equals 120 degrees. Okay, so we can replace this with 120 degrees. Now we're going to use the sine rule, which says that if we have A over sine A, this equals B over sine B. Okay, we'll extend it to the full form, which is C over sine C, but we only need to use one combination. So we will say that our length AB over the opposing angle, which is sine 34, equals 23.8 over its opposing angle, which is sine 120. Okay, we're going to multiply both sides by sine 34, so we're going to say AB equals 23.8 over sine 120 times sine 34, and this comes from multiplying by sine 34 and multiplying by sine 34. Okay, we can now put this into our calculator. So we will get that 23.8 over sine 120 times sine 34. Okay, just let's do that. Will give us an answer of, sorry, wrong color, 15.367, etc. Okay, and because we are working in terms of centimeters, we need to include our unit of centimeters. But we have been asked to give this correct to 1 decimal place, so we need to round this, and this is approximately 15.4 centimeters. Okay, so this question was worth 3 marks. The first mark comes from acknowledging you need to use the sine rule, and as such getting the angle of 120. So this, sorry, wrong color. This is our first mark. The second mark comes from rearranging correctly to get this mark, and third mark comes from a correct answer of 15.4 centimeters, like this. We have been given 2 squares A and B. Okay, we are told the length of each side of square B is 4 centimeters greater than the length of each side of square A, and the area of square B is 70 centimeters square greater than the area of square A. We need to find the area of square B, giving our answer correct to 3 significant figures and showing all of our working. Okay, and this question is worth 3 marks. So we are going to start by labeling the side of A as being x and B as being x plus 4. Okay, then we're going to say area of A, okay, is going to be x squared, and the area of B is going to be x squared plus, sorry, x plus 4 all squared. Okay, but this is also equal to x squared plus 70, okay, because it is whatever the area of A is plus 70. Okay, so in effect, this is the equation we need to solve. So we're going to say that x plus 4 all squared equals x squared plus 70. Okay, we have x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals x squared plus 70. We can cancel on both sides these x squares. we are left with 8x plus 16. Let me just fix that. So 8x plus 16 equals 70. 8x equals 70 over 16. Sorry. 8x equals 70 minus 16. Okay, 70 minus 16 is 54. This equals 54. And therefore x equals 54 over 8. We need to find the area of square B, okay? So again, we have two ways of going about this. What we can do is we can just take our result that x equals 54 over 8, like this. We can square it and add 70, or we can add 4 to it and then square the final result, okay? I'm just going to do the first one. So I'm going to say that x plus 4 equals 54 over 8 plus 4. And x plus 4 all squared equals, so I'm going to go into my calculator. I'm going to do 54 over 8 plus 4 all squared. And this gives me an answer of, actually first it's going to be 54 over 8 plus 4, like this, all squared. And this gives me an answer of 115.56, etc. We need to give it to three significant figures, so this is approximately 116 centimeters squared, like that. So this question is worth 4 marks. The first mark comes from setting up an equation to solve, as we have done here. Second mark comes from a process to reduce it to a linear equation, 8x equals 54. Third mark comes from getting a value of x, as we have done here. Okay, and fourth and final mark comes from getting the correct final answer, like that. We have been asked to describe fully the single transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle B for 2 marks. Okay, so if we look at triangle A, triangle B is larger than triangle A. So the first point to make is this was an enlargement. Okay, so we can say enlargement. Now let's work out the enlargement factor. This side is 2 and this side is 3. Okay, so scale factor equals 3 over 2, which is 1.5. Okay, enlargement by scale factor 1.5. Now finally all we need to do is work out the center of the transformation. Okay, so I'm going to get a straight line, you'll get a ruler, and you will draw corresponding points. So this point is from this point, like that. This point here comes to this point, and finally this point up here, if I can keep it in frame, which I'm struggling to, this point here to this point here, obviously draw these with a straight line. I'm just going to adjust it slightly, so we need to make that there, and then we can move this one there, and we can see that it goes through the point, albeit I've drawn it quite poorly, but it goes through the point 1, 1. Okay, so about point 1, 1. Okay, I'm just going to write here center, right? Because sometimes they like that word, sometimes they write about point. Okay, but if you write them both like that, you can get the marks. So this question is worth 2 marks. And first mark comes from mentioning it's an enlargement by scale factor 1.5. Second mark comes from stating about which point it is. We have been given the first 5 terms of a quadratic sequence, and we have been asked to find an expression in terms of n for the nth term of the sequence. Okay, and this question is worth 3 marks. So what we're going to do is we're first going to find the primary difference. So 10 to 21, okay, is 11. 21 to 38 is 17. 38 to 61 is going to be 23. And 61 to 90 is going to be 39. Now we're going to find the differences between the differences. So 11 to 17, okay, I'm just going to do it like this, is 6. 11 to 23 is 6. Sorry, this one is 29, not 39. And then 23 to 29 is also 6, okay? So if we're giving our nth term, okay, as an squared plus bn plus c, because it's quadratic, a is going to be the second difference divided by 2. Okay, this is a rule. So it is going to mean that A equals 6 over 2, which equals 3. So we're going to have our sequence, which is 10, 21, 38, 61, and 90. We will have here n, and then we have here 3n squared. Okay, so n is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 times 2 is, so 2 2's are 4, times 3 is 12. 3 squared is 9, times 3 is 27. 4 squared is 16, times 3 is 48. 5 squared is 25, times 3 is 75, like that. Okay, now we're going to do our, so this is our terms, sorry. We're going to do our terms minus 3n squared, like that. So it's 10 minus 3, which is 7. 21 minus 12, so 21 minus 12 is 9. 38 minus 27 is 11. 61 minus 48 is 13, and 90 minus 75 is 15, like that. Okay, the term-to-term rule for each of these is you add 2, so plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, and plus 2. So that means that B equals 2. Okay, now we're going to find C, okay, and we're going to just do terms minus 3n squared plus 2n, like that. Okay, I'm actually just going to move it slightly this way a bit to give a bit more writing space, actually. There we go. So if we draw this all the way here, so we have 3n squared plus 2n. In this case, it is going to be 5. I'm just going to rub out this plus 2 on each part here to give us some space to write. Okay, so it's 5 here. Then with n equals 2, so it's going to be 12 plus 4, which is 16. Then we have 27 plus 6, which is 33. We have 48 plus 8, which is 56. And then we have 75 plus 10, which is 85. Okay. Now we are going to be looking at our term minus 3n squared plus 2n. So this is going to be 5. 21 minus 16 is 5. 38 minus 33 is 5. 61 minus 56 is 5. And 90 minus 85 is 5. Okay, so that means that C equals 5. So we can write it in our answer space here that finally we're looking at 3n squared. We said B was 2 plus 2n plus C of being 5. This question is 3 marks. The first mark comes from a correct start to the method to find the nth term. So finding the second difference of the n squared. Okay, so as we have done, which is going to be here. The second mark comes from getting that the first term of the quadratic is 3, so the coefficient of the quadratic term is 3, and getting the sequence 7, 9, 11, etc. here. So here is your second mark. Your third and final mark comes from getting the correct final answer. We are being asked to write down the coordinates of the turning point of the graph y equals x plus 12 squared minus 7 for 1 mark. Okay, so the turning point of any curve y equals x minus a plus b means that the turning point is a comma b. So plus 12, this is the same as minus 12. So in this case, a is minus 12 and b is minus 7. You get 1 mark for this question, you get 1 mark for the correct answer. We are told the diagram represents a solid cone, okay? We are told the cone has a base diameter of 20 centimeters and a slant height of 25 centimeters. A circle is drawn around the surface of the cone at a slant height of 10 centimeters above the base. The curved surface of the cone above the circle is painted grey, okay? We have been asked to work out the area of the curved surface of the cone that is not painted grey, so it's the white part, okay? We must give our answer as a multiple of pi and we must show all of our working. And this question is worth 4 marks, okay? So it's all the way down here is worth 4 marks. Right. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the curved surface area of the whole cone, okay? So I'm going to say curved surface area of whole cone. And what this is, okay, they've given us a formula here very nicely. It's pi r l. Okay, so this is going to be pi times the radius, which is 10 centimeters, times L, and our length is 25 centimeters. Okay, and this is going to be 250 pi centimeters squared. Okay, then I am going to find the radius of the smaller cone. Okay, so I'm trying to find effectively this diameter and in essence this smaller radius of lowercase r. Okay, and the way I'm going to do it is, because we know that this big cone is 25 and this smaller cone here is going to be 15 centimeters, we're effectively just going to use a ratio. Okay, so we're going to say when the slant height L to the radius, it is 25 centimeters to 20 centimeters. Okay, actually it should be the diameter here, sorry. Because we're dealing with 15 centimeters, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to find what we multiply by 25 to get 15. Okay, so times what? And to do this, it is 15 over 25. Okay, that's 3 over 5. So we multiply by 3 over 5, which means we also multiply this side by 3 over 5, like that. Just make that neater. Okay, 3 over 5 times 20 is going to be 12 centimeters. Okay, so our diameter of our smaller cone is 12 centimeters, and that means this radius here is going to be 6 centimeters, like that. Okay, so curved surface area of small cone equals pi times our radius, which we said was 6 centimeters, times our slant height of 15 centimeters. We have 6 times 15, which is 90. So this is 90 pi centimeters squared. Okay. Finally, all we have to do is find the difference. Okay. So we're going to say, what's it called? Non-grey surface area, I guess. Wrong grey, sorry. Non-grey surface area, or curved surface area, sorry, because we are finding the curved surface area, not the whole surface area. Non-grey curved surface area equals 250 pi centimeter squared minus 90 pi centimeter squared, and this is 160 pi centimeter squared. Okay, and we can write it in our answer space here, like that. So this question is worth 4 marks. First mark comes from finding the curved surface area of the whole cone. Second mark comes from a process to find the diameter of the smaller cone, or the radius. It doesn't really matter which one you've done, okay, as long as you use it correctly. Third mark comes from a complete process to find the surface area of the small cone, okay, as we have done here. And fourth mark comes from the correct final answer. We are told a hot air balloon is descending. The height of the balloon, n minutes after it starts to descend, is hn meters. The height of the balloon, n plus 1 minutes after it starts to descend, denoted by hn plus 1, is given by this equation here, where k is a constant. The balloon starts to descend from a height of 1,200 meters at 9:15. At 9:16, the height of the balloon is 1,040 meters. We need to work out the height of the balloon at 9:18, and this question is worth 4 marks. Okay, first I'm going to find k. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to substitute the height of the balloon 1 minute after, so 1040 equals k times the height at 9:15, so 1 minute prior, which is 1,200 plus 20. Subtract 20 from both sides, we get 1020 equals k times 1200. And then k equals 1020 over 1200. 1020 over 1200. And this is going to be 0.85. 85. Let me just make that a bit neater, like that, okay? Now, we need to work out the height of the balloon at 9:18, okay? So, first, find h at 9:17, okay? And this is going to be, so h at 9:17 will equal 0.85 times the height at 916, which is 1040 plus 20. Okay, so we've got 0.85 times 1040 plus 20, which gets us 904 meters. And then we can use this to find it at 918, sorry. And this is h at 918 equals 0.85 times 904 plus 20. 0.85 times 904 plus 20 is going to be 788.4 meters. This question is worth 4 marks. First mark comes from a method to find k, as we have done here. Second mark comes from actually finding k, as we have done here. Third mark comes from a complete process, so finding the distance at 917. And fourth mark comes from getting the correct final answer. There are only red sweets and yellow sweets in a bag. There are n red sweets in the bag and 8 yellow sweets in the bag. Sajid is going to take at random a sweet from the bag and eat it. He says that the probability that the sweet will be red is 7/10, and we need to show why the probability cannot be 7/10, and this part is worth 1 mark. Okay, let me show that straight. So to begin with, okay, the number of red sweets, or the probability of red, okay, so where's my black pen? Yes, we can say P red equals n over n plus 8, okay? And we're going to let this equal his fraction of 7 over 10. This means that we have 10n equals 7n plus 56, 3n will equal 56, and this means that n will equal 56 over 3. Now this isn't a whole number, okay, which means that it can't be n, because n is a number of sweets, okay? So we can say here, n must be whole. 56 over 3 is not, therefore n, because n is the number of sweets, therefore n cannot equal 56 over 3, and so P red is not 7 over 10. So this part is worth 3 marks. The first mark comes from stating that the probability of a red algebraically is n over n plus 8. Second mark comes from expanding this, so solving this fraction to remove it to get this. And third comes from getting that n equals 56 over 3 and writing a conclusion. We are then told, after Sajid has taken the first sweet from the bag and eaten it, which means it's not replaced, he's going to take at random a second sweet from the bag. Given that the probability that both of the sweets he takes will be red is 3/5, work out the number of red sweets in the bag, and we must show all of our working. And this part is worth 5 marks, okay? So, what we're going to do is we're going to say, initially, P red equals n over n plus 8. Like this. After one has been taken, so we're going to say initially, okay, and then after one is taken, so 1 red, this is going to be n minus 1 over n plus 7. So we know that if these two occur, then the probability will be 3/5, sorry. So what we're going to say is n over n plus 8, so the probability the first one is red, and the probability the second one is red, so finding the product like this, equals 3/5. We're going to expand this, solve the quadratic, and get it in terms of n, okay, see how many sweets we have. We will say that n times n minus 1 over n plus 8, n plus 7 equals 3 over 5. Right, we'll cross multiply to get rid of our fraction, so we'll say n minus 1 times 5 equals 3 times n plus 8, n plus 7. We will now get 5n squared minus 5n equals 3n squared plus 8n plus 7n is 15n plus 8 times 7, which is 56. Okay? Expanding this, we get 3n squared plus 45n, and then 56 times 3 is 168. Now, what we will do is we'll just come to the new page, and we will rearrange this. So we will say that we have 2n squared minus 5n minus 45n is minus 50n. So minus 50n minus 168 equals 0. We will divide both sides by 2 to get n squared minus 25n, and then 168 divided by 2 equals 84, minus 84 equals 0. And then we will use our quadratic formula, okay? And the quadratic formula is minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a gives us our two roots, okay, our two solutions. So plugging this in, we will get that this is minus 25 plus or minus the square root of minus 25 squared minus 4 times 1 times minus 84 all over 2 times 1, which is just 2. Okay, this will get you that n either equals minus 3 or n equals 28. Now, n is the number of suites. We can't have negative suites, so we have to state here that n has to be greater than 0, and in turn, n equals 28. So this part is worth 5 marks. The first mark comes from stating somewhere that you're using the two fractions n over n plus 8 and n minus 1 over n plus 7, so that's your first mark. Second mark comes from creating this fraction. Third mark comes from clearing this fraction to get a quadratic in this form. Fourth mark comes from solving this quadratic, so using the quadratic formula. Okay, so fourth mark. And then fifth mark comes from getting 28 as your final answer. So we have been given this graph here. Okay, we're told that the graph of the curve with equation y equals fx is shown. Okay, on the graph we have been asked to sketch the graph with equation y equals minus fx for 2 marks. Okay, if we have y equals f minus x, we flip in y axis. Okay, because it is the x which is taking the negative and changing. Okay, so let's first start off by marking some key points, and then we'll draw the curve. So we have 0 here, obviously. We have 2, 1, 2, like that. We then have, this is minus 3, 0, so it's going to be 3, 0, and finally 4, 1. Okay, so let us join these up. There we go, like that. Okay, you get 2 marks for this part, and you get 2 marks for the correct diagram as such. We are then given another two graphs, curve C and curve S. We are told the equation of curve C is y equals 5 plus 2x minus x squared, and we're told it is transformed by translation to give the curve S, such that the point 16 on C is mapped to the point 46 on S. We need to find an equation for S, and this is worth 2 marks. Okay, because we're told it is shifted 3 units to the right. Okay, subtract 3 from each x value, so it will be 5 plus and then 2x minus 3 minus x minus 3 all squared. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say that y equals 5 plus 2x minus 3 minus x minus 3 all squared. Okay, and now we don't actually need to solve it. The marks team hasn't asked us to, so we can just leave it like that. And for the 2 marks you get for this. Okay, so first mark and our second mark are both for this. We are told C is a circle with center at the origin. The tangent to C passes through the points minus 20, 0 and 0, 10. Work out an equation for C, and we must show all of our working. And this is worth 5 marks. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the gradient of our tangent. Okay, and this is going to be change in y over change in x, which is minus 10 over minus 20, which is going to be a half. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to find the gradient of our radius. Okay, because if I draw it in the top corner here, if we have a circle which is centered on the origin, the tangent is like this and the radius is like this. A tangent and a radius form 90 degrees, okay? So they're both perpendicular to each other, okay? So we're going to say MR times MT equals minus 1, because that's the rule for two perpendicular lines. MR times a half equals minus 1. And from here we get that the gradient of our radius is going to be minus 2. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use our two gradients to work out the equation of our tangent and the equation of our radius. Okay, so I'm just going to say here, equation of tangent. Okay, this will take the form, okay, y equals half x plus c. We can use one of these points. We'll just use the point 0, 10 because it's easier. We'll say that 10 equals half of 0 plus c, and therefore c equals 10. Therefore, y equals half x plus 10. Okay. Then, what we are going to do is we are going to work out the equation of our radius. So, equation of radius. And we can say that this is y equals minus 2x plus c. Okay, because it is going through the origin, okay, because we're told the circle is centered on the origin, which means the radius, it goes through the origin, it means the only point we have really to look for is it goes through the point 0, 0. So we have 0 equals minus 2 times 0 plus c, and therefore c equals 0. Therefore, y equals minus 2x, just like that, okay? Now, what we need to do is we need to find the point of intersection between these two. Because once we've found the point of intersection, what we can do is we can use it. So if this is the point of intersection, we can work out the actual value of the radius using Pythagoras' theorem. Okay? So let's find these simultaneously. We're going to say that point of intersection, like that. I should just write it out. Point of intersection is going to be where minus 2x equals half x plus 10. So, let's take all the terms to one side. So we have minus 2x minus a half x. So this is minus 2.5x equals 10. And x equals 10 over minus 2.5. Okay? So if we have 10 over minus 2.5, this would be minus 4. Okay, and it just goes to show here that the diagram in honesty is wrong. Okay, there should be some other points for it, but it proved our point graphically, so it doesn't really matter. Now, y equals minus 2x, which equals minus 2 times minus 4, which equals 8. Okay, so we have the point minus 4, 8. Okay, so this is going to be minus 4, 8. Finally, let's use Pythagoras' theorem to work out what the radius is. So we can say radius equals the square root of 4 squared plus 8 squared. So we have 4 squared plus 8 squared, which is going to be 80. So radius equals the square root of 80. Okay? Finally, the equation of the circle is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. R is radius, so it's going to be x squared plus y squared, which equals 80, like that. So this question is worth 5 marks. The first mark comes from finding the gradient of the tangent, okay, as we have done here. Second mark is from finding the gradient of the normal / the radius. Third mark comes from finding the equation of the tangent and the equation of the radius, okay, so as we have done here. Fourth mark comes from setting them equal to each other and working out the point of intersection, as we have done here. And fifth mark comes from getting the correct equation of the circle in the end as fifth mark. Okay.